वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन प्रजजन रंजन यशोदनंदन प्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा 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 जीवम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिलक्ष्य स्तोत्र सदा से श्रीमद् श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जीवम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिलक्ष्य स्तोत्र सदा से श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जीवम विष्णुपाद श्री गौर किशोरदास बाबा महाराज की जय। जीवम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर की जय। जीवम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा महाराज की जय। ऐसे रूप सनातन भट्ट अविनाशी जीव गोपाल भट्टदास अविनाश गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य दास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद द्वैत गदाधर गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप श्याम राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगामाई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवृंद की जय। समावेद भक्तों की गौरव प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. It's all glories to the assembled. It's all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Moham karo devachanam pankam lage lekin Prabhupada Muhammad pe Shri Guru Gurta Paramanda Madam Shisha Televishwar. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nishtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtihi. Hare Krishna, welcome you all to this Tuesday morning Srimad-Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Canto 3, chapter 16, text 33 to text 35. Text 33. Tattu Girbana Rishabhau Dushtaradhari Lokataha Hatashriyav Brahmashapat Abhutam Vigatasmayav. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. But those two gatekeepers, the best of the demigods, their beauty and luster diminished by the curse of the Brahmanas, became morose and fell from Vaikuntha, the abode of the Supreme Lord. There is no purport, so we'll go to text 34. Tada Vikunta Dishanat Tayor Nipata Manayoho Hahakaro Mahan Asi Vimana Greshu Putrakaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Then as Jaya and Vijaya fell from the Lord's abode, a great roar of disappointment arose from all the demigods who were sitting in their splendid airplanes. There is no purport here also. We'll go to text 35. Tave Vahya Aduna Prapthau Parshada Pravarau Harehe Jiter Jatara Nirvishtam Kashyapam Teja Ulbanam Tave Vahi Aduna Prapthau Parshada Pravarau Harehe Ditir Jatar Nirvishtam Kashyapam Teja Ulbanam Tave Vahi Aduna Prapthau Parshada Pravarau Harehe Ditir Jatar Nirvishtam Kashyapam Teja Ulbanam. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma continued, these two principal doorkeepers of the personality of Godhead have now entered the womb of Aditi, the powerful semen of Kashyapa Muni, having covered them. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here is clear proof of how a living entity coming originally from Vaikuntha Loka is encased in material elements. The living entity takes shelter within the semen of a father, which is injected within the womb of a mother, and with the help of a mother's emulsified ovum, the living entity grows a particular type of body. In this connection, it is to be remembered that the mind of Kashyapa Muni was not in order when he conceived the two sons Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Therefore, the semen he discharged was simultaneously extremely powerful and mixed with the quality of anger. It is to be concluded that while conceiving a child, one's mind must be very sober and devotional. For this purpose, the Garbhadana Samskara is recommended in the Vedic scriptures. If the mind of the father is not sober, semen discharge will not be there. Thus, the living entity wrapped in the matter produced from the father and mother will be demoniac, like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. The conditions of conception are to be carefully studied. This is a very great science. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Enam Tale Swayam Rupagadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Shri Guru Shri Vidapadakamalaam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Gunatanvitam Tam Sivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shya Ye Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubha Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Upasandubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So in these three verses, there are a few points touch upon today. First point from the first verse is about the curse by a Brahmana. So, Kumaras cursed the two doorkeepers, and the two doorkeepers, Jaya and Jaya, they fell from Vaikuntha. So, one point is that normally we must understand a Brahmana's curse. Normally, a Brahmana is not taken by his birth, but by Brahminical, one who follows the Brahminical culture and one who develops the qualities of a Brahmana. And they are all pure devotees of the Lord, and they don't curse anybody because they know that if they curse, the other person might have to suffer, but he also curses if it has no meaning or any purpose. So they avoid cursing anybody. So we must understand, but at the same time, I said, like I mentioned in the last class, that one should be very careful in handling, be sensitive in handling the devotees of the Lord. So Jaya and Vijaya fell down from Vaikuntha Loka and they took birth as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, like that, 3 births they took. The next point that is important is that the demoniac birth, which is what is very important in this verse today, verse number 35. So Srila Prabhupada explains in this purport as to how the doorkeepers Jaya and Vijaya entered the womb of Aditi. Now, one point is that they are all devotees who have come down from Vaikuntha Lekwa to help the Lord in his pastimes. But they had to take birth in a demoniac family. A question might come, why birth in a demoniac family? But then this is how the pastimes happen. Another example of a typical example of a similar nature is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, but he also appeared in the family of demons. So, but the thing is, Prahlad Maharaj was firmly fixed. So similarly, these are different types of examples that are given. Now, one thing is, there is a mention about the semen that is injected by the man in a woman's womb. Now, this semen is said to be the spiritual energy of the body. And this spiritual energy of the body leaves the body at the time of this union between a man and a woman. But if one abstains from sex life, then what happens is that it remains in the body and then it raises up. And that helps in developing spiritual intelligence. Not only spiritual intelligence, we will see that many who have not got married or who abstain from sex life for sense gratification, they are very, very intelligent. So it helps in spiritual development, which is the purpose of human life. And not only that, it increases span of life. Also, it is said that maintaining celibacy. So the living entity, that is the soul, takes shelter of the semen of the father, which is injected within the womb of a mother. And with the help of a mother's emulsified ovum, the living entity gets engaged in a particular type of a body. Now, this is what is very important, because it is said in this purport, mentioned in the purport, that Kashyapa Muni was not exact. Actually, Kashyapa Muni was deep in trance. He was meditating. And that is the time Aditi approached him for union. And it is said that the semen he discharged was extremely powerful and at the same time mixed with the quality of anger. Now, because he was powerful, the children were also, both Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were also powerful. And because he was disturbed at the time of union with his wife, he was angry. So, and that anger also was there in both the children. So that is why Srila Prabhupada mentions that one should be very, very sober and devotional, not only during union, but throughout his life. That is the purpose of human life. That is the goal of human life. One should be very, very sober. One should not be disturbed. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that both Kashyapa Muni as well as Diti, they were not properly fixed in their minds at the time of their union. And we'll come to this, the mentality of both Diti as well as Kashyapa Muni. This is mentioned in this 3rd canto itself in the 14th chapter as to how the time was also not proper for them to unite. It is said that the sun was setting And the sage, that is Kashyapa Muni, was deep in trance, offering oblations to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, when somebody is practicing devotional service, it's not the right time to approach a man or a husband for union. But Aditi was afflicted by sex desire, which was due to sense gratification. So we'll come as to why. So in that translation, it says, Aditi went to Kashyapa Muni and says, "Oh learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree." So Srila Prabhupada mentions how Kashyapa Muni was deeply absorbed in trance, and there was no need for him to be disturbed. But she frankly told Kashyapa Muni that her body was distressed by sex desire because of her husband's presence. So this is what Srila Prabhupada gives an example of a mad elephant which troubles a banana tree. So it was not natural for her at that particular point of time, or the timing is also said it was not proper because it was a sunset, which is not the right time for union between a man and a woman. And then we go to the next text where we have covered these lokas before. It says that then she approaches Kashyapa Muni and talks to him. She says, she uses some very nice, pleasing words by which Kashyapa Muni would be pleased and would be happy. She says, "You should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am very much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives." So there were altogether about 13 daughters, of which Aditi was one. And all other co-wives had children, and she did not have. So as a result, she was envious in her mind as such when she approached Kashyapa Muni. The purpose of human life is to bring souls that can be delivered from the cycle of birth when we bring them to this material world. But she was envious, and that is one of the reasons for this being a sense gratification. Then the following this thing, it is mentioned that a woman, she tells a woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband. And as a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for expansion of living entities. So that means she expresses that you are meant to satisfy my desire, and you will have glory in the world by having children who are expansions. And so this way, Aditi was she was pressed for this sense gratification. And in one of the translation, it is mentioned that she caught hold of the clothing of the great Brahmana sage just like a shameless public prostitute. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that this is a difference between a married wife and a public prostitute. In a sense, a married person is supposed to be living a life of restrained or regulated as per the scriptures, whereas a prostitute is one who is unrestricted in this particular urge and who is always agitated by this desire. So Kashyapa Muni became a victim of his wife because he was also not very much fixed in trance. Though he was focusing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he was also disturbed. So the point that is mentioned here is that one is the time was not proper, and secondly, when a person is practicing devotional service, that is not the right time for union. And when Kashyapa Muni saw his wife disturbed, he also got carried away. Whereas it is mentioned in the purport that Kashyapa Muni should not have been disturbed if he was firmly fixed in devotional service. That's why it is very necessary that when we practice devotional service, we must be firmly fixed in the devotional service and not be disturbed by external circumstances. The example given is that about Haridasa Thakura. A prostitute came to Haridasa Thakura at the middle of the night. But what happened was, he was firmly fixed and he told her, "You please wait, let me finish my rounds. You please wait, let me finish my rounds." And in the process, what happened was, as he was chanting, she also developed a taste for chanting. So this is the difference between Haridasa Thakura and Kashyapa Muni. So one should be fixed in devotional service when performing devotional service and not be disturbed by exterior circumstances. And when they got into union, then what happened was, after the union, Diti herself was feeling very, very guilty. And she went to her husband with a lowered face and she says, "My dear Brahmana, please pray that Lord Shiva does not kill my embryo," because he traveled, because it said that at this is the time that Lord Shiva travels around this time and then he punishes the sinners. So this could have been thought of before, but she did not think that this will happen. So she is asking Kashyapa Muni to pray to Lord Shiva. Now what happens is that when Diti glorifies Kashyapa Muni with some nice pleasing words, he gets carried away. And he also reciprocates accordingly with her with some nice beautiful words. He says so much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is henpecked. This is what Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. That he was glorifying his wife to such an extent that it looked like Kashyapa Muni was henpecked. Or it could be a joke also. And normally a person in the renounced order of life, or one who is knowing the scriptures and practicing regulations as per the scriptures, does not practice this. Even if it has to be at the cost of, if he has to satisfy at the cost of satisfying his wife. Now, it's also mentioned that why sometimes it might be necessary for a man to satisfy his wife. Could be that if a woman is not satisfied, she could approach another man for sense gratification. So these are all very, very delicate and sensitive situations which have to be handled very, very carefully. Now, on the other hand, you see, we will see some more examples which are contrasting examples. We'll come to it in the next point. So the most important point is that the time and the minds that is there in both the husband and the wife. Yeah. Now we come to the contrasting example, that is Kardamuni and Devahuti, Mother Devahuti. Now Kardamuni was actually a saint, very great saint, and he was as good as a practicing renounced order of life. And he married Mother Devahuti, who was from a great princess, and she was living in a palatial environment. But when he approached, and he had a desire to marry someone who could help him in his spiritual life, at the same time, she also had a desire to grow spiritually. So that is why they agreed to get married. And thereafter, she served her husband Kardamuni in such a way that Kardamuni became very, very happy with her service. And such a husband, he shares his spiritual life or spiritual assets with her. So this is one very important point. So therefore, this example is given that the way she served him, she became so thin that she lost all her beauty. But then there was an understanding that Kardamuni will, before marriage, that Kardamuni will leave as soon as he gives her a son. So first, actually, she delivered some daughters and he was planning to leave. But then she pleaded with him that you don't leave now, but at least give you a promise of having a son. So he took her around and he prepared her spiritually by developing a proper mood in her. And then he asked her to take bath in a very holy place. And when she took bath in that holy place, it is said that she regained her beauty. And this way they had the union, and thereafter they had a child who was none other than Lord Kapila, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how, when the mindset is right, then the outcome is also proper. One more example of a similar contrasting this thing is Kashyapa Muni in himself and Aditi. In the 8th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, there is an example given as to how the Lord appeared as Vamana Dev. This is in the 8th canto, 15th chapter. Prabhupada gives the summary. Actually, as you all know, Bali Maharaj was a demon by nature before. But somehow he was defeated by the demigods, and then he was empowered by his spiritual master Shukracharya, and then he went on to fight and he won over the demigods. And when he defeated all the demigods, they got scattered here and there, and they all spread out everywhere. So his wife, Aditi's children are the demigods. Aditi's children are the demons. So what happened was, Bali Maharaj became powerful with the blessings of his spiritual master. And after he performed yajna based on instructions, he became very, very powerful. And his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, also gave some garland of flowers, which are also a sort of a blessing. And Shukracharya gave a conch shell. So this way he became very, very powerful. And when he fought, he defeated Indra, and all these demigods got scattered here and there. So when Indra saw this, he went to Brihaspati and inquired. So Brihaspati said that nothing can be done because these demigods cannot fight, because this person is very, very powerful. But Brihaspati advised the demigods to leave the heavenly planets and keep somewhere hidden. So they got scattered and they hid themselves. But their mother, that is Aditi, she became despondent and she was discouraged because she was without anybody. So since they were not there, and because of separation, she was also aggrieved. So one day Kashyapa Muni returned to his ashrama after practicing meditation, and he saw that the ashram was looking very, very deserted. Of course, they know what is there. But then he asked his wife, what is the reason? And she explained that all of them have got scattered because they were all defeated by Bali Maharaj. So Kashyapa Muni then asked her to practice. He gave her the signs of self-realization that we are not this body, we are a spirit soul. But then he saw that Aditi was not satisfied. So he asked her to pray to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna in the form of Vasudeva, that only he can satisfy or fulfill our desire. So here we see clearly a difference, that the demons generally don't pray to the Supreme Lord, whereas here Kashyapa Muni advised Aditi to pray to the Supreme Lord. Even Lord Brahma asked her to pray to the Lord. So she took a vow, and by which what happened was she performed this thing called Payovrata ceremony. And when she performed this ceremony, it is said that the Lord became very, very pleased. And then the Lord himself agreed to become her son by incarnating as a plenary expansion. So Kashyapa Muni also performed a lot of austerities, and she also performed a lot of austerities in the Payovrata ceremony. And being pleased with the austerities and the tapasya, the Lord agreed to become their own son, and the Lord appeared as Vamanadeva. And as we all know, that the Lord appeared in the womb of Aditi through this particular union. So the translation, one of the slokas, that is 8th chapter 17 sloka 17th chapter 8th canto 17th chapter 23rd sloka says, as a wind promotes friction between two pieces of wood and thus gives rise to fire, Kashyapa Muni, whose transcendental position was fully absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, transferred his potency into the womb of Aditi. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that this union between Kashyapa Muni and Aditi was not like a sexual union of ordinary human beings, because both of them were very, very firmly fixed in the personality of Godhead. So this is the outcome, was that Lord Kapila was born. And not only that, before their union, Kardamuni also prepared her mentally so that she lives happily. At the same time, her desires could be fulfilled. And he prepared an aerial mansion and took her all around so many places all over the universe so many times that he kept her happy, and both were spiritually inclined. So because that both of them were spiritually inclined, what the outcome was that Lord himself appeared being pleased with their austerities, and that the consciousness was very, very pure and proper. And thereafter, then Kardamuni, once Lord Kapila was born, Kardamuni left. So the point is that having a proper mindset at the time of union is very, very important. That's what Srila Prabhupada mentions here, that one's mind should be always sober and devotional of both the man and the woman. When that happens, then what happens is that the child also is very, very sober and devotional. And if we see today, most of the children who are born are generally agitated materially, and they're very, very disturbed, and they're very angry and all these things. Why? Because this verse clearly explains that how children are born today out of sense gratification, whereas a union between a man and woman can be had as a service to Krishna. So sense gratification is the biggest hindrance in one's spiritual as well as the materialistic life. One can be successful materially for some time, but then one can perform a lot of austerities by which one can go to heavenly planets also. But then after the results of the pious activities is over, one has to come down again into this material world to go through the same cycle of karma and all those things. Whereas a devotee does not go through this karma. Even a devotee suffers, is prepared to accept these things for the satisfaction of the Lord. So when devotees prepare themselves for a union, it is not a sense gratification as by the example which I have given. So devotees normally have children who also become devotees of the Lord, because there is a sloka in Srimad-Bhagavatam. It says karmana daiva netrena, which actually means that it is a higher arrangement of the Lord. When a man and a woman are spiritually inclined, the Lord arranges a living entity who is also spiritual, or who might not have completed the spiritual life, spiritual aspect of life in the previous birth. So which Srila Prabhupada has mentioned so many times, that even if we are not able to complete our spiritual practice in this particular life, we can continue from where we have stopped. For example, if we have practiced spiritual activities, say up to 70%, then in the next life, we will start from 71, whereas that doesn't happen in material aspects. So the Lord, as mentioned this loka karmana deva netrena, arranges a particular living entity who has either not completed the spiritual life, and to fulfill, the Lord arranges for such a living entity to take birth in the family of devotees. So generally we see that devotees who practice regulations as per the scriptures, they have children who become devotees very easily. They don't have to struggle for practicing devotion service. Right from the childhood, they become devotees, and they're very, very sober. So the mindset of both the man and a woman is very, very important at the time of union. There is one more point that is mentioned, is that the Garbhadana Samskar, why it is mentioned in the Vedic scriptures about the Garbhadana Samskar, is to bring the mindset of a man and woman in proper order. I will not touch on this subject very much because it's a long subject, but these samskaras are given in the Vedic scriptures to be practiced so that we can regulate our life. Somewhere it is mentioned that there are 10, somewhere it is more. But right from the time this Garbhadana Samskar is there, is to prepare the child mentally, and for both the husband and wife to be mentally set or cool down, so that their mind is proper at the time of union. With the result, what happened? The child, when it is born, is also of similar nature and not materially agitated. So that is why the samskaras are given. And there are so many samskaras, like Garbhadana Samskara, marriage is a samskara, then Simanta Nayanam is a samskara, then wearing the thread is a samskara, even death is a samskara. So if these samskaras are properly observed, then one can achieve perfection. Now, for example, this Garbhadana Samskara, there are places that are mentioned that if one can chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Mahamantra, that itself can serve as a powerful samskara. So the easiest way, because nowadays it is difficult to get Brahmanas to perform these samskaras in the proper mind, because Brahmanas are generally not supposed to demand. But nowadays, if we see Brahmana, the pujaris who perform, they clearly say you have to pay this much of money. So many times people get carried away by their beautiful words and all these things, but they pay the money. The result is that they might go to heavenly planets. The person for whom it is performed may get the result, may not get the result, because it depends on the fight. It is said that on faith of both, and at the same time the chanting of the mantras of the brahmanas and all those things. There are so many factors involved in it. So it need not necessarily give the results that one expects. But then if the brahmanas are good, it can give. But at the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a very, very easy means, which is chanting the Mahamantra in this Kali Yuga. If we are able to chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and be fixed in our devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our mind will be fixed. And there will be a time, I mean, from the beginning stages of the chanting, we might have some disturbances. But the more we practice in the association of devotees and focus on our chanting, that can give the results what could have normally come by observing this Garbhadhana Samskara, etc. So, but still devotees can perform this samskara, not that I'm not saying that they should not perform. It is good if they perform, but if the samskaras are performed by devotees, it is equally good, still better than paid brahmanas. And of course, the purity and so many things are there in this particular subject, samskaras. So one must be properly fixed in his mind, which is very important. Even without the union, if we are not properly, even in we are observed in material activities like going to the office and doing some work, if every activity that we perform can be done as a service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, gradually we will reach a stage where we will be fixed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is what it is said that normally yogis practice. Now yogis practice yogas to bring the mind under control, but devotional service itself is so powerful that it can bring one's mind under control, provided it's practiced properly. So, but chanting of the Maha Mantra is the easiest and the best means of deliverance in this Kali Yuga. If we are able to do that, we can get the same or even better results than observing the samskaras or practicing yoga. So observing samskaras is very, very important, and it can be achieved by chanting the Mahamantra. But ultimately, even if we chant the Mahamantra, thinking of Krishna all the time is the most important. If our chanting is proper, if we are able to reach the stage of proper chanting, then we will be able to think of Krishna and then be delivered from this cycle of birth and death. So with this, I could do whatever was possible in this subject. I'm concluding the class for the day. I can take for the next couple of minutes any questions or comments on the subject.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Do you have any questions, comments?
No, Prabhuji, I always like the way you give so many examples related to the same topic. Prabhuji, it's very like so much you take care and you research and you tell us. Thank you so much.
Doing this as service to the Lord. At the same time, whatever little bit I know, I'm trying to share with you all. So
whenever I follow your lectures, like generally I try to attend. Mostly, sometimes I do miss, but I see that you give so many related examples from the Bhagavatam. Like that's like we can put everything like in perspective, and we can relate that same example everywhere. Like the Lord is reinforcing the same principle like everywhere in all the examples.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
It's all due to my Guru Maharaj's mercy, whatever he speaks through our mouth. That's all. I'm not speaking anything on my own. I try to put some endeavor. That is also to please my Guru Maharaj.
Sure, Prabhuji. Jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Jai, Gurudev.
Anyone else? Any questions, comments? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yesterday, the chapter 32 was not covered at all, since Radhapati Prabhu had not come.
I see. I didn't know, Prabhu. I didn't know. Otherwise, I would have covered. I had no issue. But what do you want me to do? Tell me.
It is short enough. You got another 5-10 minutes.
Okay. Let me first read it because
Yeah.
the translation says, after thus speaking at the door of Vaikuntha, the Lord returned to his abode where there are many celestial airplanes and all surpassing wealth and splendor. The purport, it is clear from the verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. Okay. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha Loka, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha Loka? But factually, they did not enter and therefore they returned. There are many incidents where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuntha Loka, but they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuntha airplanes. Vaikuntha Loka is described here as having splendid opulence. Yes, this particular paragraph mentions about the sages, the 4 Kumaras. They did not actually enter the Vaikuntha Loka because they were stopped at the entrance itself. So if they had entered the Vaikuntha Loka, then possibility they wouldn't have fallen down. So they were stopped at the gate itself. So that is their reason for their coming down also. And I think I mentioned in the last class also that because they cursed the 2 doormen, the 4 Kumaras also had to pay the price for it by not getting, they would have got Dasya Rasa, but they got, it is said, Shantarasa or neutrality. So they did not actually enter Vaikuntha Loka, but they were stopped at the gate. Let me read the next paragraph. All other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is the born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarvasya Pavaha. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. That means those who know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and they worship only Krishna because they have a realization that he is the origin of everything that is there, whether it is a spiritual or material world, everything emanates from Krishna. And those who worship Krishna with such an understanding, they are known as Vaishnavas. The Vedic hymns also confirm this Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. The Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people, not knowing the Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world and therefore they fall down. So this is also a very important point that it's not very easy to come to that stage of understanding that Krishna or Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord himself says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyate. So it takes many, many births to understand that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Having come to that stage, one should not try to deviate from that because there are so many people who try to speculate saying that Krishna is not worshipable, Lord Shiva is the most worshipable object, or Indra is the most worshipable object, or Ganesha is the most. You see, we see so many, every day somebody calls himself as God. Some Sai Baba, so many people claim Sai Baba to be God. Sometimes some yogi is claimed or this thing as God. So there are so many things that is going on in the society. One should not get carried away by this such mental speculation and be fixed. And the purpose of that can be achieved only in the human form of life. Why? Because the lower species have a very, very less consciousness. Their intelligence is less. They cannot understand about God. And as you go to the higher species of life, to say like demigods, we see today commonly in the society, we see so many rich people. They may be sattvic in nature, but they don't believe in God. We see that. So what happens is that when the moment you have a lot of opulence and you are free from difficulties in life, at least for some time, they feel, oh, whatever I have done, it is due to my karma. I am reaping the benefits. So there is no one behind this. But actually, some birth he might have done a lot of pious activities, due to which one might get good results in this birth. But that results get exhausted in this birth itself. So again, he has to start from scratch. He cannot start from where he stopped. No, he has to start from the scratch. So this is why once it is said that even taking birth in heavenly planets as a demigod or as a denizen or a citizen of the heavenly planets is not worth it, because one will become puffed up or become proud. And what will happen is, at the end of life in that particular this thing, all our results of pious activities are also finished. And when it is finished, we have to come back here. And it is explained in detail in Bhagavad Gita, how the living entities come to this material world. So that is why it is said that human life is the most important, because it is possible to utilize our mind, our intelligence to understand this subject matter and practice spiritual life. So this is the most important I could cover from this particular sloka, Prabhu. Yes, so covered some of the important points that I mentioned. And because people worship other demigods or create so many gods of their own mental speculation, therefore they fall down, even from heavenly planets. Yes, this is also an important point in this sloka. But fall down of a devotee is different, as I mentioned this last class, that and fall down of other conditioned souls or worshippers of other demigods or demigoddesses. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I met somebody. Same way, two instances I can narrate. That one came and said that he is worried about handling a Vaishnava. If a Vaishnava curses, I explained the same thing: a Vaishnava will not curse, and who is worshipping the personality of Godhead. And the other thing came another instance where they were practicing devotional service, but somebody told them that unless and until you worship Goddess Lakshmi, you cannot get Lakshmi. So it was a sort of a mental speculation. If you are able to satisfy Krishna, then all the others are automatically satisfied. Just like watering the root of a tree, water is given, the nourishment is given to all the branches and leaves, etc. So one cannot actually go and pour water in every leaf or every branch. So worshipping Krishna is like worshipping the root of the tree. All the demigods, demigoddesses, everyone get their part of this thing. So one need not have to worry. And if after worshipping Krishna also one does not get a material opulence, one should not get worried, because one should think that what Lord has done is for my own good. This a devotee has that understanding. A one who is fixed in devotion service has that understanding that whatever the Lord does for me is the right thing for me. We may not understand it immediately. Sometimes we might think, oh, Lord has not given me a child, or Lord has not given me this opulence, or this has happened to me. But whatever has happened, whatever happens in a devotee's life is all a mercy of the Lord. Nothing is there which is not in our interest, but the Lord knows. We should have that much of faith. We should have. Did I clear this point for you?
Yes, Prabhu, very clear. Very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone? Any other comments on this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm sorry, I'm asking a little. I don't know whether it is appropriate to ask. It seems silly sometimes.
No,
but,
you can. No.
So I was just wondering, when I was thinking that, if Krishna, he created all souls similar or something, he creates the internal energy, and there'll be some souls in that internal energy, right? All his expansions and avatars and all. So then when he created Jivatmas, so is he still creating, and when he creates, does it we all will we have that devotional mindset, or we are, I don't know, how so it's it's just my wondering, Prabhu, how he creates, and how we fall down, why would we have been in other higher devotional state and we would have fallen down or something like that.
Okay. Let me try to the possible extent. Actually, we being part and parcel of Krishna, by constitutional position, we are all servants of Krishna. Okay. Now, there are many reasons for fall down. One reason is that out of envy of Krishna. When we see opulence, we become, supposing we see somebody who is very rich or somebody who is very, very opulent, we develop envy, isn't it? Similarly, Krishna is opulent, he's full in everything. So we sometimes be minute part and parcel. That is why it is Prabhupada always uses the word minute part and parcel. Being minute part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, there is a tendency to become envious by seeing the opulence of Krishna. And not that could be one reason. The other reason could be envious of other living entities. And third reason could be that you might be practicing devotional service, but still the Lord wants you to come here and take birth because when the Lord comes, he comes with all his associates. This I mentioned many times. So you could have been practicing devotional service, but you are brought here for being a part of the pastimes of the Lord. There could be many reasons which only the Lord knows. But if you are able to practice devotional service right from the beginning of the birth, that means you must understand that you have performed devotional service even in your previous life. But if you have been atheistic for a greater part of the life, then you must understand it's a conditional existence that we have had, which is due to many reasons, like envy is one of the main causes of fall down. If we become envious of Krishna, then he arranges us to send in this material world to take bodies in so many living entities so that we can understand and reach a stage where we know this is my constitutional position. Like, for example, if a hand is supposed to serve the body, if the hand doesn't serve the body, the hand is of no use. So, but Krishna does not discard us like that. But Krishna always thinks how to reform us. So whatever he is doing, it is for our reformation that we have to accept. And that much of faith we must have in the scriptures. So Krishna says in many places in Bhagavad Gita also that one who comes to me will not again fall down. One who reaches my abode will not fall down. So we must have that faith in scriptures. If we don't have faith in scriptures, then we cannot have faith in Sadhu, Shastra and Guru, without which it is very difficult to understand the subject of self-realization. And we have gone through so many bodies, material bodies, and then come to the human form of life, which is the easiest form to understand this science of self-realization. So that is why we always say that human form is the most valuable. So even if we are not able to complete devotional service in this life, the Lord will make us to take birth in a devotee's family, which is the most important for us. So, I mean, this is in a nutshell that I could give explanation, but definitely envy is one of the causes of our fall down. And by constitution, we are meant to serve Krishna. There is no other position for us other than serving Krishna. And that can be reached only by practice of devotional service.
Yes, Prabhuji. So, like when he creates us, he doesn't give us that consciousness right away, is it? He is a giver of everything. He could have like given us that consciousness, no? Like
maybe see, there are so many human beings who are not intelligent enough to understand. Like, for example, there are many who keep pets and dogs in their house. Now, I'm not saying that one should not keep pets, but what happens is that one gets carried away by such consciousness. You see, Jadabharata, sorry, Bharat Maharaj, he got carried away by seeing a deer and he had to take the birth of a deer. So it is not that Lord has created so many varieties and so many varieties of living entities, so many bodies. So he might have done so many things, but Lord has given us that independence for us. He is not, I mean, for example, if you have a child and you try to control too much, then what happens? The child gets frustrated, isn't it? But so similarly, the Lord has given us an independence, which we misuse, which is called misuse of free will. So we misuse whatever free will or independence that we have got and do whatever we want because of our ego. So this is why it is said that we should try to shed our ego and we should not use our free will or misuse our independence of doing whatever we want. Lord is, because we are a part, Lord is independent, and being a part and parcel of Krishna, yes, there is a minute quantity, that quality also present in us, but in a minute form. So the Lord has given the independence also. Okay, you don't want to serve me, you serve somebody else if you want. So in the process of that, we try to serve so many, like for example, husband and wife living for sense gratification is trying to serve each other, trying to serve some pets, or worshipping of demigods. There are so many we try to serve, but ultimately we are not satisfied by serving anybody. Am I correct? So finally we reach a stage, if we serve Krishna, we become satisfied. And definitely there is a one who has taken up the Krishna consciousness can realize, yes, from the time I have taken up the process of worship of Krishna, my life has transformed. But this will not happen by worshipping anybody else. That is true. You can ask any person who has been practicing devotion service, they will tell you this. The more you perform devotion service, the more anarthas we become free of.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. We misuse the free will is like, it's kind of where I could understand that that is what we have been doing. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for answering.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? I can't hear. Some voice is breaking. I can't hear. Somewhere the voice is breaking. I can hear some background sound, that's all. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I would suggest that if you have a question, you can call me personally, no issues, because I'm not hearing a sound.
Prabhuji, if it is a small question, you can type in the chat.
Who is it?
No, I'm just saying, Prabhuji, if he has a question, but we can't hear, he can chat. He can chat. Put it in the chat.
Okay. I'm not a tech-savvy person, so I don't know how to open the chat also in this.
I will read the question.
Okay, you can read the book. Okay, sure.
Shanta Govinda Prabhuji, you can unmute yourself and try again, or you can chat. It's up to you.
My question is clear, Prabhu.
What was the question, Babu?
About the chapter 32 was not done. You explained to me about. I think there's somebody else who's chatting from behind.
I thought I read the 32, which when one of you said that 32 was not done, so I did.
That's myself. That's myself.
Okay.
So that is clear. I think there's somebody else who's trying to chat. There should be some disturbance in between.
There is some disturbance at your end, I think, because I'm able to hear something and not hear something. So
I'm in a silent room too. Not be fine.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
All is clear.
Okay, now it is clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments? Or can I take it as closed? If still anybody has got, they can call me also personally, not an issue.
Looks like there are no questions, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Granth Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat.